Let's get it. I just float with it. Fuck what you did, I'm at your throat with it. You can learn something, take a note with it. Dedicated my life, I took an oath with it. For the blood of my brothers, we don't do no switching. I run with who I run with, ain't no clicking. Try me, do you done with no decision. Lead a scene like a Mack truck with 4 collisions. Pose everywhere, but they ain't gon' vote dissing. Coming at you live and direct, I don't do no dissing.
Alright, Shalom Israel, Shalom Yahweh Bashim Yahushua Brakatham. To all my brothers, Yahweh Shema Allah Tham Bashim Yahushua. To all the sisters, you know what I'm saying? Let's go ahead and clap it up. We've always got some sort of technical issues, technical difficulty with the sound, but we managed to sort it out this week, Lord allow. You know what I'm saying? Alright, now welcome to Real Time Revelations. For anybody that is new, this is a show I do every Monday and every Thursday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. UK time, live on TikTok. All right, now today's topic, I got a real heavy topic again. The Home Office will just not stop oppressing, you know what I'm saying, black people. You just won't stop oppressing black people, won't stop oppressing West Indians, won't stop oppressing those from the Windrush. All right, the descendants of the Windrush generation, and, you know, just West Indians in general, you know what I'm saying, since we landed in this country. We have not been stopped being oppressed. All right, now I got a few videos to start it with. First, I'm gonna start, for anybody who is unfamiliar with what the Windrush scandal is, I got history kind of breaking down. I got a video kind of breaking down the history on it, and then also some cases to do with the Windrush scandal, and then we go into, you know what I'm saying, the topic of tonight's show, which is another sister. Now it was a few episodes ago I had where they was trying to deport another sister, another Jamaican mother who was living in the UK. They were trying to deport her from with false identity fraud charges. With this sister, they're also trying to, you know what I'm saying, deny her the ability to stay in the UK. So they're also trying to, you know what I'm saying, deport her, essentially. All right, and this sister is actually a descendant, direct daughter of a brother who came over to this country through the Windrush scheme, right? So what I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna go ahead and share our first video for the night, and then we'll get into the story. So let me go ahead and do this. I want to make sure y'all let me know if y'all can hear the audio on the video, and then if it's low or if y'all are struggling to hear it, just let me know. Or if it's too wild, just let me know. All right, I'm gonna play this now.
So let's make them very welcome as they begin their new life over here.
A generation who were invited here by the government to help rebuild Britain after the war, but decades later as pensioners were wrongly classified as illegal immigrants.
I've done my bit in society. I didn't expect to be treated that way.
Today, a report has found that the Home Office broke the law, failing a generation of black Britons.
It broke her. All my mum for.
So it says, all right, most sign crash the water says for the sound check. All right, so it says in the video that, you know what I'm saying, today, which whenever this video came out, I believe this was roughly a year ago. It goes around 2023 or kind of around when the Windrush scandal came out, probably a few years after that, it was found that the Home Office broke the law, meaning the government broke the law, which is no surprise because the government break the law all the time. You know what I'm saying? That there really is no surprise that the government break the law. I mean, you just even think back to COVID and lockdown. And then, you know, everyone was required to be locked down. You had to be indoors. You had to be, you know, stay 6 feet away from everybody. And then it was found out that Boris Johnson and all the MPs was having some party in 10 Downing Street. They were having a Christmas party. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, Christmas is nothing to be celebrated, but it just shows the hypocrisy of the British government. It shows the hypocrisy of our oppressor. So it's no surprise that they broke the law in dealing with blacks, with you know what I'm saying, black people or people from the Windrush generation. All right.
Failing a generation of black Britons.
It broke her. All my mum thought is they want to remove her from the country.
I came here on a Saturday afternoon on the 21st of September 1968.
Arriving in the mother country full of hope for his new life ahead.
So they say, you know, arriving in the mother country, because of course, for those of you don't know, Jamaica was owned by the whole Caribbean was damn near owned by the British. All right. So the Caribbean was owned by the British, so now they call it the mother country, or you know what I'm saying, they was all basically subsidiary countries to Britain. All right. So you'll hear a lot of West Indians is they call it the mother country, or they kind of show almost their what's the word, their patriotism is towards Britain. It isn't even towards, you know, the particular island there in the Caribbean, isn't towards Jamaica or Trinidad, is towards Britain. All right. They call it the mother country. But look, let's you know, listen on about more about how this mother country failed them.
Here on a Saturday afternoon on the 21st of September 1968.
Arriving in the mother country full of hope for his new life ahead, Renford McIntyre came from Jamaica to join his parents.
My mum was a nurse.
What did your dad do?
He was a crane driver. They've worked up until their dying days.
In
So this is a brother who came over, you know what I'm saying, from Jamaica to the UK. His parents were helping to build Britain back up after the war, right? So his mother was a nurse to help with, you know, we built the NHS basically, and his father was a crane driver, you know what I'm saying, to help him with construction and literally rebuilding Britain, as it was, you know, whatever from the wars, you know, buildings might have collapsed or been blown up, literally rebuilding Britain, right, from the war.
1969, Mr. McIntyre got his first job.
My first wage packet was £4.10.
He's worked a number of jobs ever since, including as an NHS driver. Mr. McIntyre paid his taxes, settled down, had children. But in 2014, a routine request from his employer to update his paperwork revealed that he had never been naturalised in the UK and didn't have a passport.
So this brother, you know what I'm saying, he came over with his parents. He's been working his whole life, paying taxes. You know what I'm saying, even at one point he was working for the NHS. He's paying his taxes, he's doing his thing regularly. And then all of a sudden there's some routine checkup with his employer to update his paperwork. And they find out though, well actually you're not a British citizen. You're not actually, you know, they're saying like naturalization, where essentially you become a British citizen. It's like if you live here for such amount of time, or, you know what I'm saying, you effectively become a British citizen, right? But he never received that status. He never officially became a British citizen. And so because of that, technically, it was found that he was here illegally, which of course we know that the whole Windrush scandal is because they allowed our, you know what I'm saying, they allowed our the Windrush generation to come over here. They didn't need any documents because they came here to rebuild Britain. But then a few years later, they go, oh, well, you don't have documents, so you're here illegally. And they try and deport you back, or they try and do this and do that, try and fine you, or you have to pay this to stay here, you have to pay that to stay here. You know what I'm saying? But they know that, you know, we came over here to build Britain, so we deserve to be here. If we want to stay here, we deserve to stay here. But you know what I'm saying, that's how snaky our oppressor is. Our oppressor is like a serpent. You know what I'm saying? The Bible says, as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. As iron is sure to rust, this oppressor is sure to stab you in your back. It's you know, you should always expect this oppressor, whatever kindness he seems you think that he's showing you, he's always going to stab you in your back. Always. That's why the Bible says in the Apocrypha, never trust thine enemy. You can't trust this man. You can't trust this man. Even the Bible says his words were smoother than oil, or softer than oil, smoother than butter, or whichever way around it says it. But in his heart, but as it says, war was in his heart, right? Meaning it has been a constant war against black people. It's been a constant war against those of the Windrush generation. A physical war, a spiritual war, a mental war. It's been a constant battle trying to just oppress and just subjugate black people that came over here to serve this country.
He was sacked, but worse, much worse, was to come.
So not only did he lose his job after they found out, oh, well, actually, you don't have the right documentation, so they sacked him, they fired him, right? And then the worst was yet to come. Now he's got to contact the Home Office, or now he's got to get in touch with somebody to okay, well, I need to sort out my paperwork. I need a job to work to earn money to live, so I can earn money so I can eat.
And I went to the Dole office to sign on, and they said I was basically, you're an illegal immigrant.
How did that make you feel?
Well, I definitely can't say the words and how I felt. I was embarrassed, very, very angry.
Mr. McIntyre was a
So he was embarrassed and very, very angry, extremely angry that, of course, imagine you come over here as a child, you see your parents build Britain. You're over here, you're working your whole life, and then all of a sudden they turn around and say, well, actually, you don't belong here. Go back to, you're here illegally. Meanwhile, you and others just like you were the foundation of this country. The foundation of this country. Not only the reason there is, the reason Britain is, they call it Great Britain. The reason Britain is so called, so great is because they had our forefathers and foremothers in slavery. Right? They got rich off our backs. Then not only that, then when they get into a war, we go to their aid. We help them, and we help them win the war. They would not have won the war without us. Even you watch a few shows back. I go over the whole Windrush generation fighting in the war. They only allowed us to fight in the war because they had so many casualties, because they were being unalived at such a fast rate. They said, okay, fine, we'll allow y'all also to help. So they would not have won the war without us. And then we also help. We come over here after the war and we rebuild Britain. We rebuild Britain from the foundation up. And then all of a sudden they turn around, they spit in your face and say, well, no, you're here illegally. You don't have the right paperwork. This oppressor, he breaks every single treaty he makes. You just ask this, the Native Indians. Ask any nation he's made a treaty with. He breaks every single promise.
victim of the so-called hostile environment policy introduced by Theresa May in 2012 to bring down net migration. Hundreds of people who had been here for decades were suddenly unable to work, to get NHS treatment, and in some cases unable to even stay in the UK.
So all of a sudden, in 2012, this Theresa May, this old devil, this old oppressor woman, comes and says, okay, well, that we're integrating this new hostile environment policy, meaning we're getting rid of all the illegal immigrants. Meanwhile, you still have many immigrants still coming over. You have a lot of East Indians still coming over. Afghans, they're paying to bring them over. But the hostile environment, and it's actually ironic they call it a hostile environment policy, because it was a hostile environment for Blacks, Hispanics, Native Indians. They searched and they found out, okay, well, who can we get rid of in this country? Well, not really who can we get rid of, because they know who they wanted to get rid of. It now became, okay, well, how can we get rid of these Black people? How can we get rid, we're cracking down on immigration, right? Cracking down on immigration, apparently. So how, let's get rid of these Black people. How can we do this? How can we get rid of them? We know they came over in the Windrush. Back in the day, we said, we signed a treaty or signed a deal saying, we signed a deal saying, they don't need documentation. They can come over here to rebuild. But wait, okay, so they don't have documentation. So let's get them on that. All right, so then, is hundreds of people who came over here, who built Britain, are the descendants of those who built Britain, and now we're unable to work, we're unable to receive healthcare, we're unable to do anything that, the British citizen can do. Meanwhile, these are the people that should be treated the best. The people who fought in a war that wasn't theirs, who rebuilt a country that wasn't theirs, who through slavery, your whole economy is built at the back of having them enslaved, and still they come and help you. You should treat these people the best. But that's not what Britain's about. That's not what your oppressor is about. It's a hostile environment.
But in some cases, unable to even stay in the UK. The policy broke equality law and was a shameful stain on British history, according to a new report by the Equalities Watchdog. The EHRC found that the Home Office ignored the consequences of its policy on people's lives as they narrowly focused on the political promise to reduce immigration. Hundreds of Black Britons were failed, who, after decades, were British, but not British enough.
Good night. So, you know what I'm saying, this it says it's a stain on, you know what I'm saying, British history. This, you know, this isn't a stain on British history. This is the regular scheduler, you know, the regular program or schedule of oppressing Black people. This is nothing new. This is like, oh, what a shock. This is a stain. You know what I'm saying? You had these people enslaved. You had these people, you know what I'm saying, cutting cotton day in and day out for generation after generation. This is not, you know, this ain't nothing special. This ain't, you know, a stain as if the rest of British history is so squeaky clean. You know what I'm saying? That's how they love to present it. Like, good night. This person says a motivation mindset billionaire says they actually destroyed their documents using the Data Protection Act as an excuse. I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. You know what I'm saying? This oppressor, he'll line things up for you know 10 generations down the line and how he can oppress you. He will, you know what I'm saying, bring you over here to build Britain, use your strong descendants because we're stronger people than them to, you know, get labor out of them, to get, you know what I'm saying, high skilled workers out of us. But then, you know what I'm saying, whenever it's time for, you know, whenever it's time for him to ship us back, or whenever it's time for him to, you know, crunch down, whenever it's time for him to appeal to his fellow oppressor in politics, he will ship you back. He'll get rid of you. Okay, he said they destroyed their boarding passes that were held in archives. Yeah, that sounds about right. So of course, to get over here, you know, you either got over here on the ship, I believe it was the Empire Windrush, which was the name of the ship that brought those brothers and sisters over here, right? And also whatever other method, they probably destroyed their boarding passes from some, you know, I don't doubt it at all. I don't doubt it. And then they turn around and, you know what I'm saying, we'll say, you know, you don't have any documents. And you'll say, okay, well, what about the boarding pass? I had a boarding pass, right? You know, it's probably, you know, that point disintegrated, you know, physically, but surely y'all have a copy of it, right? Y'all must have a copy. I know y'all take record of these things. Y'all must have a copy of it in the archives. I say, no, we don't have no copy of it. There's no record. Oh, you know, I think that might have been something we had to get rid of because we can only keep it for so many years because of data protection. Meanwhile, where is the protection for us? Where is the protection for our data? They'll say data protection and get rid of evidence. The only evidence, like if that was just, you know, additional evidence, and they said, okay, we need to get rid of it because of whatever protection needs, but we have, you know, we still have a record of it somewhere. We still have a record of, you know, these persons' right to come over here, or the agreement. They have a record of it, but they'll say they destroyed it. Meanwhile, they know exactly, you know, Britain doesn't, you know, the oppressor doesn't lose these sort of things. He doesn't just, oh, oops. No, he has a record. He knows exactly what he's doing, but he will purposefully do it. He'll throw a stone and then tuck his hand. That's exactly how this oppressor is. All right, let's run it back a little.
The political promise to reduce immigration. Hundreds of Black Britons were failed, who, after decades, were British, but not British enough.
Hold the box out.
After the scandal was uncovered, a public campaign and a subsequent inquiry, the government eventually apologised and set up a compensation scheme in April last year.
So, you know, after just putting the Windrush generation through hell, you know, they issue an apology. You know, sorry, my fault, my bad. You know, I didn't. Oops. Meanwhile, they know exactly what they do, and it's by design that way. You know, this oppressive things generations down the line. This is completely by design, but then they turn around and say, "Oh no, well we'll issue, you know, we'll issue a compensation scheme. So anybody that was affected by this, you know, this error, this mistake on our part, can get compensation." Let's see how that compensation scheme went.
But there have been delays in payment, and for some who lost everything, it is too late.
But you know, even with this compensation scheme, there's delays in payment. And for those of you who might not know about this compensation scheme, many people have looked at it. Lawyers have looked at it. I think people have done reviews on it, and it was one of the most worst written schemes in history. One of the most worst written policies. The paperwork you have to go through is insane. Like one of the most difficult processes to go through. And you know what I'm saying? And then they put that as the compensation scheme. Well, you know, there's a compensation scheme. Meanwhile, it is the worst piece of just whatever to go through. It's absolute hell to try and fill in that compensation scheme. So many will have just given up. And the people who actually, you know, managed to get through that hell of a process, there's delays in payment. Now there's whatever issue. There's, oh well, we need this paperwork and that paperwork, and we need, you know, they'll always throw some additional requirement that then takes them, you know, 5 more years to review. And then there's delays, and some of these people are even, you know, dying of old age before they can get any of this compensation. And then when they get alive, they just, for the most part, for most cases, you know, the case just dies. It just dies off. Nothing gets paid even to the children or anything. It just, okay, well, I guess that's one less case we had to pay compensation to. There was no intention of actually helping Black people with that scheme. It was entirely just to cover their backside, but they made it, good night, they made it the worst piece of, you know, legislation or whatever they call it, the worst policy in damn near in history. Somebody said they started the policy after the riots. They wanted to punish Black people. Right. Everything your oppressor does in this country, in whatever country you're in, whether it's America, whether it's you know, you could be in Japan. The oppressor will find some way to oppress you. Like wherever you are, wherever Black, Hispanics, and Native Indians are, you will be oppressed by your oppressor. And play on with this. And you know what I'm saying? So they put in this compensation scheme, but there's delays with payments. And many people are saying, okay, well, after all this hell you put me through, even saying I'm here illegally, some people getting shipped back, some people can't work, can't eat. They struggling, they have to rely on this family member and this family member, and they running out of options. And all that hell you put us through is too little too late. We'll play on.
Compensation scheme in April last year, but there have been delays in payment, and for some who lost everything, it is too late.
It broke her. My mum's the kind of person, she gets up with a smile on her face, and she's just happy throughout the whole day. She hear her music, you see her walking down the street, she'll be dancing and stuff like that. But it's like she went from this to, it's like it just made her, it wasn't nice to see.
Natalie Barnes's mother was one of the...
Right. This oppression your oppressor puts you through every single day will put you in just a state of absolute depression, just because you try so hard to love this oppressor. We're taught, you know, Christianity, we're taught to love your neighbor, which apparently means to love everybody. So we're taught to love everybody. We give all our love to our oppressor. We give our allegiance and our efforts. We give our whole life to this country. And then they turn around and just, you know, and turn around and kick you out. Or sanction you with all sorts of different various methods. This is psychological torture. Just imagine how broken you would be that you've given your whole life to this country. Then all of a sudden they say, okay, well, you know, at the ripe age of like 85, oh, you're here illegally. Go back to Jamaica. Go back to St. Lucia. Go back to Barbados. Just imagine how broken you would be as a person. Your whole life you're paying tax to this country. You're not committing crimes. You're an upstanding citizen. You doing what you need to do just to get by. And whilst you're doing that, you're suffering all forms of racism and you know, racism in schools, racism in your job. It's so hard to even get a job. You know what I'm saying? And then even after going through that, after suffering the oppression, after suffering, they exploiting us, and the same price they would give an oppressor a whole house, they'd give us some room in a corner of an attic for the same price. After going through all that and just saying, just turning the other cheek like a good old Christian, like a good servant, like a good slave to massa, they turn around and say, you here illegally, go home, go away. We cracking down on immigration. We got to get you out. Meanwhile, you see them still bringing in other nations. Imagine how just brokenhearted you would be. How that would just shatter your whole, you know what I'm saying, from a child. From a child, you give your whole life to this country. And then they get you when you're old and you're vulnerable and you don't even have the strength to fight no more. That's when they kick you when you're down.
First to go public with her story and became a prominent campaigner. Paulette Wilson died this summer, having never received any compensation.
Like this sister right here, who unfortunately died from whatever reason, is probably expedited because of the stress they put this sister through, but she died before she could receive any compensation. So they'll say, oh, well, we know we had the Windrush scandal, but we put in place this compensation scheme. But many people, all the hell you put them through, many people died before they could receive anything. Even if they receive anything, it's not the mental anguish and just everything you put them through. It's not enough. It's not enough. You destroyed the lives of so many people, so many Black people, and you just want to, fling a couple pounds at them.
Her daughter says there have been enough reports. What's needed is action.
Are these reports worth anything? No. They haven't.
And there's so many reports about the Windrush scandal and that it was so bad and it was illegal and that there needs to be something done about this, but nothing is really being done. There's no real, there's no real compensation. The Jewish man, he gets his reparations. He gets his reparations from Britain, who wasn't even the person who did them wrong. Meanwhile, you as a Black man or a Black woman, nah.
Even dealt with Windrush. I mean, that broke my mum's heart.
Renford McIntyre, who found himself homeless at the age of 64, is still waiting for his compensation.
Do you think this policy was racist?
Deep down, yes. This is so plain and disrespectful.
The Home Office told us they're working closely with the
And you can hear it in this brother's voice. Like, he initially said deep down, yes. Deep down, yes, this policy is racist. Ain't no deep down about it. You don't have to do no deep dive. You don't have to, go into the you don't have to do no expose. It's just straight up racist. And then later on said, it's blatant and it's obvious. It's what did he say?
Disrespectful.
I'm going back a little bit more.
This policy was racist.
Deep down, yes. This is so plain.
He said it's so plain and so disrespectful.
And disrespectful.
And you can hear the pain in this brother's voice as he's speaking. You can hear how hurt he was when this whole thing happened. What he's going through, what he's been through. You can hear the pain in his voice.
The Home Office told us they're working closely with the EHRC on an action plan to ensure they never make similar mistakes in the future.
So let's make them very well.
Good night. And they're working close with the EHR, the whatever human rights, I think it's European Human Rights Association or whatever government body is over that, right? To do with human rights, to put in an action plan to make sure something like this, just never happens again. Well, it's time to get into today's story where this, something like this happens again. The shock, the horror, the absolute, dismay. This is unforeseen. We never could have saw this coming. Let's get into this story. All right. Mother fights Windrush injustice in High Court. We got another Windrush injustice. All right. This sister right here named Janelle Hippolyte. It says Janelle Hippolyte's sister and two brothers have been given leave to remain in the UK under the Windrush scheme. Okay. But what about this sister? So a mother of two whose father came to the UK as part of the Windrush generation. So a part of those brothers and sisters that came over here to build Britain after it was just, beaten to shreds after the war, has said that it is an injustice that she has been denied leave to remain. Okay. Janelle Hippolyte, 41. So this sister is now 41 and she's still, still fighting the same fight that they putting on to oppress the Windrush generation. Now they're oppressing the children of the Windrush generation. Anybody they can just pray at and point at and say, you shouldn't be here or kick you out or, just absolutely uproot you from your whole livelihood. They will do it to you. They will do it to a black man or woman. They will absolutely do it to you. The first chance they get, they will deny you anything. Like any black person who gets anything from this country is by the skin of his damn teeth. They will try at every turn to deny you of anything they can. All right. Someone said in the comments, but remember they want to remove the echo or EHCR, and if they remove us from it, they will do worse. Right. So they're even saying they want to remove. I'm gonna look up what the EHCR is. Let me look into it. EHCR, I believe it's to do with human rights. The European Convention of Human Rights, right? So it protects the human rights and basic freedoms of the people in the 46th Council of Europe. So with Brexit, I'm sure with Brexit they took us out of the European Union. So this person said, I think they are trying to get rid of this, this human rights convention, right? Because we're now technically out of Europe. And if they remove us from this, whatever standards this sets, then there is no telling what Britain would do to us. There is no telling the oppression they would put us through. You heard that politician the other day say, not only should Britain never pay those of the Caribbean reparations, not only are they denying those reparations, but he said that we, the Caribbean countries, should pay Britain. That's what's in the mindset of this oppressor. That's what he would have. That's what he would enforce upon you if he had the chance. If it wasn't for this European convention, they'd probably have that in place right now. There is no telling, there is no, and Salaki, it just hit my mind now. We've already paid Britain. We paid them in our taxes. We paid them in the slave labor. We've already paid them far more than, like, good night. Their pockets are fat because of our contributions. But they say we should just pay them further. Because apparently, the Caribbean has done so well. He said some Caribbean countries have thrived and done well. Right. No sweat. Let me not go, off topic too much. I was like, let me read this next one. Also, if Nigel Farage becomes a Tory leader, which is a possibility, or he leads, he will do worse. Let me tell you something. Every single one of them politicians is all the same. We went under the same oppression through who was leading at the time of what's her name? Priti Patel. Was it Boris Johnson or David Cameron? The same thing. We're going through the same thing with Keir Starmer. We're still being oppressed, no matter whether it's Labour, Conservative, this, that, whatever. We just being straight up oppressed. All right. Let's go on in this article. So Janelle Hippolyte, whose children were born in the UK, said she had been denied the same right as her family and is challenging the decision in High Court. Her sister and two brothers have been given leave to remain in the UK under the Windrush scheme. So both her sister and her younger brothers have been given leave to remain under the Windrush scheme, right? So, they recognize that, okay, their father was part of the Windrush generation. He should be allowed, to stay here. And then by proxy, his children should be allowed to stay here. But her own attempts, so this sister right here, I don't know if she's one of the oldest or, this daughter right here, her own attempts to be granted the same status have been denied. A Home Office spokesperson said it would be inappropriate to comment while there's an ongoing legal proceedings. It's always inappropriate for them to comment on whatever wrongdoing they're doing. They just do whatever they want to do behind closed doors. All right. Now, this is a picture of the sister when she was younger, right? Janelle Hippolyte moved to the UK aged 17 to be with her parents and stayed for 2 years on a student visa. Okay, my dad came to the UK as part of the Windrush in 1956, said Miss Hippolyte, who grew up in St. Lucia and first came to the UK in 2000, aged 17. So her father came over here in the Windrush, left, I'm not sure if he left the mother and the children back in St. Lucia, you know what I'm saying, with the aims to eventually bring them over here, as many brothers and sisters, you know what I'm saying, do. Right now, she came to the UK in 2000, so she was 17. She came in the year 2000, and she wanted to stay with her father. She wanted to stay with her parents, but because, you know what I'm saying, because they denied her father, because her father didn't have rights to live in the UK or he wasn't a British citizen, she couldn't stay through any sort of visa. She went on a student visa, but the visa expired and she had to go back, right? And has been, she left in 2002 when her student visa expired, but later returned and has been living in Southeast London since August 2020. All right, so she had to leave when the student visa expired because her father didn't have citizenship, and so she had nobody to tie any sort of visa application to. She had no British citizen that she could say, okay, well, can I become a child dependent from this person? Because her father didn't have, full rights. But she came back and she's been living in Southeast London since August 2020. Okay. She says, I came to the UK as his daughter to study here in 2000. I wanted to stay and make a life here like my family have been allowed to do. But simply because my dad's Windrush status was not rubber stamped until 2003, I've never been able to live here continuously. So because her father came over in the Windrush and he didn't have official rights to remain here. He didn't have what's known as indefinite leave to remain. It wasn't given him until 2003. The year after, this sister had to leave because, again, she had nobody to tie any sort of visa application or application to, right? So because they denied her father indefinite leave to remain or, British citizenship until 2003, she had to go back and she couldn't stay here. She had to go back, right? And then her lawyers argued that it was her father's delayed status that caused her to leave. So it was the Home Office fault, the reason that she had to leave. Because the Home Office did not give her father, status. Gave it him in 2003, but it was too late. Right? And then the reason she has to leave is because, and the reason they're denying her indefinite leave to remain, or essentially citizenship, is because she's been unable to satisfy the necessary continuous residence criteria. So because she had to go back, that's why they're denying her now indefinite leave to remain. She said, I had to split my life between the UK and St. Lucia, Ms. Hippolyte said. I've been denied the same right that my family has been granted to live here permanently. So her father's been granted through the Windrush scheme. They finally corrected that injustice. Whatever hell he went through, they corrected that injustice and he's allowed to stay here. Also, her brothers and her sister is allowed to stay here. Now let's see how her brother and sister is allowed to stay here. She says, this is an injustice I want to see corrected, not just for me, but for all the other Windrush generation children who have been affected by this loophole, which you can guarantee there's so many, brothers and sisters. It's not just this sister who's the victim of the same thing, the same loophole that this oppressor will use to just get rid of you. Meanwhile, he brings in every other nation. He is hell bent on getting rid of you. All right. So this is her and her family. It's right here again, her and her family. So this is in the UK. You can tell, So she's been a part of the UK or been in the UK since she was a child, right? Her brothers who came to the UK in 2007, aged 13 and 14, stayed in breach of immigration rules, meaning while she had to go back because she wasn't allowed to stay in the UK legally, her brothers who also would have had to go back, they stayed in breach of immigration rules, meaning they had to break the law in order to stay here. Because this oppressor, really it shouldn't be a breach of immigration rules, because they should have, the father should have had permanent rights. But they stayed in breach of immigration rules. And then they were later granted indefinite leave to remain through the Windrush scheme. So through the same scheme, they became naturalized citizens in 2019, right? Her sister was granted British citizenship as a result of her application to the scheme in 2018. So her sister also, applied to the same scheme and was allowed citizenship. She was granted citizenship. Now, this sister, Miss Hippolyte's legal team agreed that she is being penalized for having complied with immigration rules when her brothers were not. So because her brothers stayed, they had to break the law to stay in order to then later apply to the Windrush scheme. And then they, of course, were able to stay because the Home Office had to admit that they shouldn't have, that the father should have already had the status. So their stay wasn't really in breach of immigration rules. So the brothers stayed without listening to the Home Office and were eventually granted citizenship. The sister, who was 17 at the time, she listened to the oppressor. She listened to the devil and said, okay, fine, I have to go back, but I'm sure later on down the line, I'll come back. If my father gets his status, then I'll be able to apply the same way, like my brothers and sister have done, and I'll be granted citizenship as well, so I'll be able to stay. So she went back to St. Lucia and spent many years in St. Lucia, and going back and forth from the UK to St. Lucia. And then, but when she now comes back and tries to apply for the same thing that her brothers applied for, the same thing that her sisters applied for, the Home Office are now rejecting it because she hadn't stayed in the UK for long enough. Because they told her that she had to go back to St. Lucia. But of course, that's just, there's the Home Office will just hold up their hand and say, it's that the rules is the rules. I don't make the rules. Meanwhile, they literally do. They literally are the reason this sister is being denied. They could change it because they know what they did was wrong. They know that the reason she's being denied is because she had to go back. They could make an exception because they were very wrong. And even in, even it was what? It was told that this whole Windrush scandal, the government, the Home Office broke the law. So they could apologize and say, well, I'm sorry, you shouldn't have had to go back, we shouldn't have had to rip you away from your father and send you back to St. Lucia to continue, to continue doing what you're doing. Sure, we'll give you citizenship. They could say that, but, that's not how this oppressor rolls. This oppressor will just pick off, it's the same old story. Like, he will separate you, just divide you from your family, and just pick you off one by one. All right, we're going to read on. Let me see. The judicial review claim against the Home Office's decision began being heard at London's High Court on Tuesday. The hearing concludes later on Wednesday. All right, so the hearing concludes at this time. This was what, the 2nd of October? 9th of October. All right, so we now go to, so let's see. When was, this is Tuesday. All right, so this hearing was done on the 13th of October. And what was the result of the hearing? Daughter of Windrush man loses bid to remain in the UK. So they said, nah. They said, nope. And the sister said she was devastated by the judgment and plans to appeal. So she's planning to, appeal to this oppressor. But this oppressor doesn't care for your tears. He doesn't have no sympathy or no empathy for your situation. He understands sympathy and empathy towards the Jewish man, towards the Afghans, towards the Ukrainians. He understands empathy and, sympathy towards them. But when it comes to you, nah. It's in a spirit to hate Black, Hispanics, and Native Indians. They will always hate you. They will never show no compassion, no love. Anything they do, claim to show, they said the compensation scheme is fake. It's absolutely fake. All right. Let's get, so most of this stuff we've already read through. Let's get the decision. Let's get it here. Okay. In a ruling on Wednesday, Mr. Justice Clive Sheldon dismissed Miss Hippolyte's case, saying she had not suffered a historic injustice. So they denied her indefinite leave to remain, And let me see. In fact, let me read a bit above here. With view to its decision after indefinite leave to remain was given to her brothers and father because of father's Windrush status. Her lawyers had said her case was identical to those of her brothers, but the Home Office said her bid was lawfully refused. So any chance they get to lawfully refuse you because their law is absolutely biased against you, they break the law to oppress you, but they'll turn around and say, your request was lawfully refused. We know we were wrong, but your request was still lawfully refused. So go on back home. Go back home. We will once again rip you away from your father. And you have children in the UK. You have children which have, built a life in the UK, but, you got to go back. We'll go ahead and rip you away from your family. You know what I'm saying? Let me get it right here. It says the Secretary of State would have been highly likely to decide that there was no reason, therefore, for the Secretary of State to make an exception to the Windrush scheme in the claimant's case. Let me get right here. So this goes into the story, which we've already read. Let me get right here. Okay. Miss Hippolyte said she was devastated by the judgment. It will turn my own life and that of my children upside down, she said. I hope to appeal the judgment and fight on for the right to stay in the UK, which is my home and my children's home. So she's, continuing to fight. But you know how this oppressor is. He will lawfully refuse this sister again and again and have no empathy, no sympathy. And that this is why the ISUPK exists. This is exactly why the ISUPK exists. Let me tell you why. Luke chapter 4 and verse 18. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. And this is Christ, quoting Isaiah, right? He hath sent me to heal the brokenhearted. Most I sent his prophets to heal those brokenhearted, to heal Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians from all the oppression that we've been through. To free your mind from thinking this oppressor loves you. And this oppressor, he will do anything that is in your best. Anything that he does, even if you benefit, is in his best interest. He don't give a damn about you. All right, so he sent us to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives. Let me tell you something. Blacks, Hispanics, Native Indians in any of these countries, if you're a black man in Britain, that your forefathers were owned by them, you yourself are still owned by them. You're still a captive. You have no land of your own. Even Jamaica is not our land. You know what I'm saying? You are a captive in this country. Even this sister, or those in the Windrush generation, those in the Windrush scandal, they found themselves that they were captives in this country. And whenever this oppressor gets ready to ship his captives back, he will ship you back. You have no rights. You don't have the same rights as every other nation that comes here and is treated as a human. You'll get tricked. You're treated as a captive. You can just get used and abused and shipped off whenever they feel like it. All right. And recovering of sight to the blind. You're not physically blind, but if you can't see that the oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of, then no sweat. We will recover your sight. And we will say to you every damn week on them street corners that the oppressor is the devil that the Bible speaks of. We will go through every social media platform on Facebook, YouTube, and we will recover your sight to let you know that your oppressor, this devil that had you in slavery, that had your whole family in slavery, that through every turn just oppresses you. We will recover your sight to see who your enemy is. We know you've been blinded by Christianity. We know your grandma and your grandpa grew up in the church. They've been good old Christians since they were born. We will recover your sight to give you the truth, to not give you the happy clappy lie that God loves everybody. We will give you the truth of who you are, that you are the chosen people of God. And these other nations, they're only allowed to rule over you because our forefathers broke God's laws. All we have to do is turn back to him. We turn back to him. We don't need to be under this oppressor no more. We don't need to be begging him for indefinite leave to remain in his country. We will own the earth. They will have to beg us for rights to remain. And the Bible says that, you know, Esau will be devastated. His cities will be broken, will be torn down to rubble. And I don't know if his request to remain will be, you know, accepted. He could appeal, but we gotta ask, you know, we gotta ask Yahushua. Should we should we allow them to remain? We'll see. In that day, we will see. To set at liberty them that are bruised, and we've been bruised and battered and beaten physically, mentally, and just spiritually beaten down for generation after generation. We come to give you freedom from being constantly beaten and you're you know, begging your abuser to stop beating you. You don't need to beg your oppressor to stop beating you. You have to stand up and fight back. You have to fight back spiritually. You don't fight back by becoming a drug dealer and destroying your own people. You fight back by keeping these law, statutes, and commandments. You fight back by becoming a priest and prophet and waking up more of your people, by becoming a sister, by becoming a wife to some of these brothers, and building this entire nation back so we can rule the earth. That's how we fight back, man. That's how we become free. That's how we receive the kingdom of heaven. All right? Most High in Christ. And with that, that is my show. Let's go ahead and clap it up. Hey, make sure y'all tune in. The scripture breakdown class will be going live, you know what I'm saying, right after this. Make sure y'all tune in on the ISUPK United Kingdom YouTube and Facebook. Ask any questions, all the questions you have, either on the Bible, just generally in life. We will answer, you know what I'm saying, every question you have. All right. Now with that, again, shalom to all my brothers. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Barakatham, and Yahweh Shema Alatham Ba'ashem Yahushai. All right. Shalom as well.
Let's get it. I just float with it. Fuck what you did, I'm at your throat with it. You can learn something, take a note with it. Dedicated my life, I took an oath with it. For the blood of my brothers, we don't do no switching. I run with who I run with, ain't no clicking. Try me, do you done with no decision. Lead a scene like a Mack truck with 4 collisions. Pose everywhere, but they ain't gon' vote dissing. Coming at you live and direct, I don't do no dissing.